Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Gunners Town Radio podcast. I'll be in the chair tonight, Dave Seeger, and I'm joined by my good friends Paul Hepka, Invinciblog on Twitter, and Charlie, AFC Charlie, another regular. Good evening, chaps. How are we?
Good afternoon, Dave. Good afternoon, Paul.
Evening. Hi, Charlie. Hi, Dave. All good.
Excellent. So I think we've got, as we discussed during the day, we've got 4 items on the agenda tonight. We'll do three 5-minute sections and then full 15-minute FA Cup preview mode. So the 3 things I want to talk about that have been in the news since our pod on Tuesday morning really have been the rumours are coming out, or whether they're sort of leaks from the club about Aubameyang potentially having an extension on his contract and not been extended and not been taken up on that option. Secondly, very strong rumours that Ceballos, they are going to take up an option on loan and they're pushing for that deal. And thirdly, Ornstein's story about some of the players that may be available this summer. So quick 5 minutes on each. So first of all, I'll go to you first, Charlie. Did you know about this Aubameyang extension option? And what do you make of us not taking it up if that is indeed the case, or is it just a load of old rubbish?
I didn't know as much as an extension was it. What do you mean? Did I know it was?
They said they had an option to extend the contract, which Arsenal had the right to extend to 2022. That came out yesterday, and they're not taking it up.
I didn't know that. In all honesty, I always thought he was going to stay. Personally, I thought he was going to. I think you look at. I think he's happy in London. I mean, like everywhere he's been, he seems a happy-go-lucky character. I think he's revered at Arsenal, which is not. If he goes to any of the top clubs, he's got to start again, and he's not going to get that same. If he goes to, I don't know, like a Barcelona or a Real Madrid, he's not going to be their main man.
Not going to get the adulation.
No, and I think he likes that. I think he loves all that, and he looks comfortable. And as a wealthy footballer, there's probably no better city to live in than London as well, in a way. Like I think he's happy here, and I think we know what he's like, Dave and Paul. We watch him every week. He's not your 10 out of 10 every week, but he will pick up the goals, and he gets away with the games where he doesn't play well here because of what he's done here. So I think he's at his level, and I'm happy he's down. I think he'd been devastated if we'd lost him in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, so Paul, I mean, you're on Instagram. What do you make of his father's pictures of all his cars being loaded onto a ferry to leave the country, and his father sort of seems to be hinting that he may be on his way? I mean, I don't believe it, but a lot of people seem to.
Well, yeah. The father's message, I mean, the first half, I think, was congratulating him on almost getting the golden boot, but scoring all the goals and everything. And then the next was a kind of cryptic thing like, people got to know that in our culture, it's not the son that makes the decision, it's the father, and we know what's best for you.
He's done that before. We've talked about this before, haven't we?
And then there was a picture of his cars being loaded up. But apparently he has 2 cars that have been sent ahead of schedule to France because he's going there on holiday. Right. Apparently that's why those cars are being set up. Sent. I don't know. There's just always this family talk and stuff, and it's hard to know what to believe or not. But regarding that option, from what I've read, it seems like Arsenal would have the option basically to force an extension. They had that built into the contract. But I think everyone at Arsenal seems to think that kind of forcing a player to stay against his will, especially at this point in his career with that last contract, you want the guy to be there because he wants to be there. I mean, look what happened with Alexis and stuff. It doesn't work. So I think that they've decided not to.
No, I can see that. My take on it's always been, and I tend to agree with Charlie, that I think he'll be here next season. What I think is different between him and Alexis is if the situation is that he doesn't want to extend, but he's happy to play out the last year, I've always been content with that. Because I think to get £25 million now for a player of his age,
we ain't going to get.
What are we going to do with £25 million? It doesn't buy you a replacement for him. And yet, if we had to pay him the increase, say from 180 to 280, whatever it is, that extra £6 million. So there's £6 million that you're not going to have to spend. So it's 19 million quid. It's even less. And also, if his goals far us back, it's paid for itself. I've always thought that.
Where would we be without him? Let's face it. I mean, like he's scoring 50% almost of our goals. They're not coming from anywhere else really. And if you signed him now and signed him for a 3-year contract, for instance, and gave him that extra pay, you're talking about playing £45 million over the next 3 years. Where are you going to find anybody remotely? He's 33, yes, sure, but he played more minutes this season for Arsenal than any other player. 3,130 minutes.
You're right there, Paul. To be fair, his age is 31. I think football's changed now since like 30. Even like the talk. I know we'll probably talk about Willian in a bit. 31 years old. At that age, that's sort of players' prime now. So
yeah, look at Giroud. He's 33.
He scored.
Well, hold on. A better example. Let's look at the player who did win the Golden Boot.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's the same. Yeah.
No, he's 33. He's 2 years older than Aubameyang.
So I think, and I'm under the impression you, Dave. I think the Arsenal hierarchy have also said as well to him, all right, even if you don't want to sign this summer, you're going to stay for us. We reevaluate it in January. You said you're happy. You want to play Champions League football. Let's see where we are in December. If worst comes to the worst, we give you a year. We're up your money for a year at least. Maybe give us a bit of protection or whatever. But let's see where we are in January. If Arteta's got it's not a proper pre-season, but we've got to build it with him, and then see how we get on come December. If we're looking strong, he might want to sign. Even if this is what I was thinking maybe weeks ago. But then if we are struggling, I'm sure Arsenal will let him go at their blessing of a free transfer. And it'd been a win-win for him anyway.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think we're all agreed that Aubameyang, we want him to be here next year. And I personally think we all think he is going to be here next year, whether he signs an extension or whether he doesn't. That's my.
And the one thing that's different from Alexis, Van Persie, all these names that did leave, which people compare him to, everything you talk about, they always mention he is happy at Arsenal.
Yeah,
he's happy. Do you know what I mean? He's happy. He's captain. He seems like he's got a good rapport with everyone. He seems to really like Arteta. The other players were all angling for moves out because they wanted to go. He doesn't seem like that. So that.
The pitch. Sorry, he gives 100% on the pitch. He's tracking back. He leads by example. He, like even when you're fighting a losing battle, the guy's back there tracking back, making the headers, making interceptions. There's none of this idea that he's kind of just drifting, like waiting for a move. He seems to be like committed.
Yeah, I didn't think he was a logical captain. Obviously, we were forced into a decision with the Xhaka situation. But what I have noticed is he's a good mentor to some of the younger players as well. You can see him talking to them, when they're going off, when they're coming on, when there's a stake on the pitch, he'll put his arm around them. And I didn't see that side of him come. I didn't see that coming. That's really impressed me. So, yeah, we're all good on that. So what about the other big story in this sort of loan transfer market this week about Dani Ceballos? I'll kick it off on this one. I think I have absolutely no issue with us extending the loan for another season. I think it's a good move. I'm not sure that I'd want to spend 25-30 million pound on buying him right now. I'd like to see him for a full season. So I'm happy if that's the case. What about you, Paul?
It's Dani Ceballos. Interesting because he started off, like he looked like he might be something exciting. Then there was like a bit of a slump where you thought, oh, geez, we're on this octopus with a slow turning circle. It just doesn't seem to be, And then now under Arteta in this last kind of post-pandemic thing, I really admire his ball recoveries, his interceptions, his tackling, his drive. He gets the ball. He's got he's got great body movement and stuff. He turns and he's trying to make something happen, and we need that propulsion. So I'm loving what he's offering because there's not a lot else in the team that's offering the same thing. So I wouldn't mind actually signing him because I think he's the kind of player that if he was committed to Arsenal and if he isn't featuring in Zidane's plans at Real, I think he's the kind of guy that could really like nail down and give you his best. And let's face it, he's entering his prime right now. He's a great baller. He obviously has a lot of talent. I think Arteta could make him into somebody special. Yeah.
Charlie?
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on this, Dave. I think the reports you hear that we haven't got a massive transfer budget this summer. To knock 25-30 million out of that on Ceballos, I wouldn't have been too happy with, to be fair. I think we need to address some bigger issues. But if you'd have asked me before lockdown, I would have said take it or leave it, don't care if he stays or goes. But since lockdown, as you've said, Paul, he's been absolutely excellent. He's actually come out and said since that trip to Dubai was when he really turned the corner. He went away with Arteta. He spoke to Arteta. Arteta told him how much he values him. And it's been shown his performances. He's been excellent. Him and Xhaka have built up a really good relationship. And Torreira is a bit of a fan's favourite. People do like Torreira. And he can't get a look in at the minute because of this. But what I would say, a loan deal is excellent. Even with an option to buy, it gives us another year for nothing really, other than wages. But
how much would that be, by the way? Just the loan and wages and stuff?
Yeah.
How much?
I don't know. I think they're talking about, I think his wages are around £100,000 a week or something like that, isn't it?
They want some sort of loan signing on loan fee.
I think they want 4 or 5 million, don't they? Which is, I know we were saying, well, that's not a lot of money, but it is obviously. But do you know what I mean? In football terms. But what I would like to, we need a creative attacking midfielder, and he's not that. Let's get that right. He's not going to play that attacking. He fits in system at the minute. We're playing 3 and a 5. He fits that well. 3-4-3 fits that well as a 2. I'm happy, but I don't think he's that advanced playmaker. So we do need to get someone else as well in there, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you my 2 penneth worth. I don't entirely agree with what you just said, Charlie, because I think right now in a 2 with Xhaka, there are limitations that we are accepting because we want 3 at the back. And we are losing the creativity, and the creativity has to come from the width. The thing that worries me long term about Xhaka and Ceballos as a 2 is how one-paced that midfield is. You know, there is no pace at all if things break down. So if we're going to play a 3, and we do need an attacking player, I agree. I still think it's only one of Xhaka and Ceballos long term, because I think you need an out-and-out defensive midfield player, and neither of those are that. And I do think you need a creative one. So I think if you need 2 out the midfield players and one of those 2. And right now, I would say when he took Ceballos off last weekend early, when Xhaka was on a booking, I think that told me quite a lot about where Arteta sees the 2 players right now. I think for Arteta, Ceballos is slightly ahead. And I actually think, one more thing, I'm talking too much. I think Ceballos, since the pandemic, reminds me of a certain Mikel Arteta in his last great season before he got injured, when we won the FA Cup, when he was playing alongside a box-to-box midfield player, because he wasn't an out-and-out defensive midfield player, but he had a great mind for the game. He was making interceptions. He was starting the play. That's what Ceballos is doing right now for us, more than Xhaka.
Yeah, I think I do agree with the limitation for the 2 of them in the middle, but that comes down to having the wide, as you said, the wide players have got to be right. See, if we're going to play 3 at the back, which you'd, before Mustafi's injury, it would have been Mustafi, Tierney, and Louise.
Yes.
Your wide players have got to be a bit more creative. So for me, you want a Saka, so to speak, on the left, and the right. I think that's the situation. Bellerin's not that player for me. Definitely not. No. Cedric, I thought he done well with a couple of games, but I thought he let himself down a bit in the Villa game. Didn't look too clever. So I think, and I don't think Pepe can play a right wing back because he doesn't.
No.
Defensively, so it is an issue we have to cross. But I think you'll see even against the Watford game, Arteta's going to mix that formation up. So you're going to, and I'm sure we're going to go on to transfers now, Nick. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I do think he wants to play. My gut feeling is he wants to play the formation he started with post-lockdown, which is 4-3-3. But that's why he was using Saka as a 3rd midfield player, because he needed that mobility, because the other 2 don't give it to him. So I think that's where he needs to address in the summer. But on the players who may leave, one of the players who could play right wing back, who's definitely been one of the ones who has said is available, is Reece Nelson. But the other sort of mass of players that are available, and I think we do need to discuss, is the centre-back situation, because we're still being linked with another centre-back. We've already signed Murray, we've extended Louise, and we've got Saliba coming in. So we know 4 of our centre-backs. That means that Socrates, Holding, Chambers, Mavropanos and Mustafi, there's 5 centre-backs that probably aren't in his top 4. It's all very well saying they're available, but can we sell them?
Well, Mustafi can't, because who's going to buy him? He's broken right now, So
well,
yeah. Chambers is injured, so you're stuck with him too.
Oh, he's back in full training now, though, isn't he, Chambers?
Oh,
so he is fit enough to pass a medical.
You're looking at. I mean, I've read various reports today. One saying that he's told Socrates, "You're not in my plans." Yeah, I've read that. And I've read something as well saying that Socrates' agent said he's happy to be where he is. He's going to stay where he is. He's on £100,000 a week at Arsenal. We ain't going to get that anywhere else. We've got ourselves in the old Abbey situation again, where with Ozil, we've got players on such high contracts. They're not just going to leave because they're never going to get anything near what they're on now.
Well, Kolasinac's on £130,000 a week because he was a free transfer.
Exactly.
But I mean, this pandemic has really turned everything around. There's so much insecurity about what kind of what the next season's going to look like. This one was so disrupted. I mean, if you or I were in a job and we had a decent salary and we were given the option, just to leave or stick with what you got, I'd stay. I mean, I don't blame those guys for staying where they are. And as far as like players that you can sell, we can talk as much as we like about who we want to sell, but unless there's not a buyer, what's going to happen? For me, like this whole talk. Sorry, Dave. Moving on to the next section that you were talking about. The leak about selling. For me, the question is more who we don't want to sell, and I think there's maybe 4 people. And then if there was any offers for any of the other people that aren't those 4, I think we'd probably take them. We'd bite your hand off for it. If you want to discuss who those 4 players are that you'd keep,
Yeah.
It's really not a lot that you'd
But to be fair, Paul, the sad thing is what you've just said there. It is literally Pepe, Aubameyang, Tierney, Saliba, Leno, maybe Martin, 2 keepers in that. Everyone else, he's up for sale.
So 6. That's 6 out of 27.
I don't think you'd sell Saka after and Martinez.
Oh no, sorry, Saka, Martinelli are exempt, and I'd like to see Smith Rowe be invited around the squad next year. I mean, I've got a mate of mine who's seen to get older at Huddersfield, hasn't been going, been watching every game, and he has nothing but rave reviews about how well he's played. Been excellent, and I think Arsenal sent him away on loan because they want to see him next year.
Well, Arteta said that. He said he's really looking forward to working with him. So, yeah, I think Paul's point is valid. And everyone's forgetting this, is that, we all know that we need to sell to buy. We have to sell to be able to give Arteta money to buy. That's accepted. I mean, there are people who say, oh, yeah, we're still going to spend. Pete Kroenke's going to put his hand in. He's not. Okay, so we do have to sell to buy. I'm not saying there's not going to be any money available, but we had to sell to buy. But Paul's made the point, and it's very valid. It's a depressed market, and all this English premium. Like last summer, we turned down the summer £20 million the summer before last for Leicester for Callum Chambers. He's not going to get that now. Rob Holding would have been £20 million last summer or the summer before. He's probably 10 million now. These players that would have been an English premium and would have gone for good money to a solid middle Premiership side. No one's got that money. Even Liverpool, having won everything, aren't going to be spending big money this summer.
Chelsea, Man United are teams are going to take advantage of this summer, unfortunately. Well, I don't buy into the whole we've got no money. I think Arsenal tend to say that, get that in the press, because they want people to think that we're skin. Right? And then I do agree. And it's a good tactic, because Ravens had today about we asked about Jack Grealish today.
Yeah.
We asked about him. We were told 80 million, and Arsenal didn't respond, which is obviously understandable. But we're not going to be asking for them about them sort of players if we've got no money or interest to sign them. So, but Guendouzi, you'd like to think at the minute is probably our best asset, and Lacazette are probably the two we could sell to get some money in.
Yeah.
So I think they're the two you'll see touted about. Maybe Torreira even. I mean, I know for a fact that our number one target we want desperately is Thomas Partey. Yeah. Okay, and I've seen people moaning about, just pay the 50 million release clause. It doesn't work like that. He hasn't signed a contract because he wants to come to Arsenal. We're not going to pay the release clause. We've got a bargaining power, haven't we? You're not going to suddenly say you've got to start a bit of a negotiation.
And also what happens on Saturday helps with any negotiation. I mean, that makes a huge difference.
It's massive.
So we can't really talk about anything until we know whether we're shit or whether we've got options,
Yeah. Well, let's move on because we need to address that for the last 10 minutes, whatever. FA Cup final, massive weekend, not as big as we'd normally all be there, which is depressing that we can't be, but it's still a massive game. It's a repeat of 2017. I personally am feeling quite confident, but I don't know how you guys feel. Both of you, do you think he's going to go the 3-4-3 and match up against Chelsea at the weekend?
I think you'll see the same team he played against Man City, exactly man for man,
with Maitland-Niles on the left.
Yeah, I think you like that. I put a tweet out yesterday, and I think this game, as Paul just said, I think this shapes our future in a way. I don't want to be cold blunt about it. If we win, we're in Europe. Aubameyang stays. We probably get the players we're going for. The lift for the next 4 or 5 weeks before he starts is a good feeling. If we lose, which I don't want to think about, it's the complete opposite. It really is. And I don't want to put the pressure. I think it was a little bit similar last year with the Champions League place and stuff. But being out of Europe completely, I know people say it doesn't really matter. It really does. The money you get for it, the players you can buy and appeal and attract, it does make a difference. So don't get me wrong, I'd much rather be playing Chelsea this week than Man United. I don't know why. I know they finished, United finished above them in the end or not, I don't know. But I feel a lot more confident playing against Chelsea just because I think we own from last year, the cup final. They'll probably match up for us the same formation. As much as Giroud's on a bit of a purple patch at the minute, I think we could deal with Giroud. But no, it's going to be a tough. Every cup final's a tough game. Let's get it right. Do you know what I mean? So, but I'm confident that we will do a result.
What's your take on that, Paul? I mean, this is probably there are two positions that are being debated, and it's probably right wing back and left wing back, and Maitland-Niles is heavily in that debate, having played so well on the left twice against Wolves and then against Man City. But Chelsea do look to get to the byline and get the ball across the near post for Giroud. So they look to go outside. So do you want Maitland-Niles on his wrong foot against a Willian or a Pulisic? I don't know. I mean, or would you rather see Saka because he is left-footed there?
I think Arteta is so pragmatic as a coach, and I think in the games where we've been really successful, he's shown either through an adjustment halfway through the game or at the beginning of the game, he's shown that taking a key player out of the game, just the key player out of the other team out of the game, can really, really screw them up. And he's been good at that. And Maitland-Niles been central to like a couple of the times that he's disrupted the other team, like against City and stuff. You get Maitland-Niles on to take care of Mahrez. And suddenly, even though the space is out wide, they can't do anything with it because he's closing them down. I think if Maitland-Niles is given the job to, take Pulisic out of the game, I think that would, that would really help Arteta, because it means that they've got to find another outlet, and so it puts the pressure on them to then.
I think also with Saka, Dave. Sorry, mate. I think he'd be on the bench Saturday, because I also think it's a plan B for us bringing him on. If all of a sudden you start Saka at left wing back, if things do go wrong, you've got no options to bring anyone really attacking wise. If you know what I mean, you're not going to bring Maitland-Niles on to correct the game attacking sense. Your only option,
not Kolasinac.
No, but I mean, Willock and Nketiah are the only two attacking players we could probably bring on. So. Yeah. I think he would leave Saka on the bench as a little, just in case. Do you know what I mean? If we could do without him, great. If we are chasing the game, sling him on, maybe go back to a back four or something. So, as much as Saka's done really well, he's been excellent. I think he'd be the full guy this Saturday.
Okay. So here's a question then. We don't actually know whether Bellerin's going to be fit enough to play on Saturday, do we? There's going to be a fitness test at some point. So if Bellerin isn't fit enough, and therefore, would you play Maitland-Niles on the right ahead of Cedric, or would you play Cedric on the right and still play Maitland-Niles on the left?
Cedric's cup-tied. He can't play.
Okay. So you would have to play Maitland-Niles on the right. Then would you play Saka, or would you play Kolasinac and still keep Saka on the bench?
I would play Saka if that's the sense. I do not want to see Kolasinac on that pitch. I know it's horrible, but I just think Tierney's looked excellent at that centre-back of the three. And without Mustafi there as well, and I've been coating off Mustafi, I have. But that Mustafi, Luiz, Tierney looks solid.
Yeah,
it did. Rob Holding worries me.
Just a quick point on the Saka thing is, like, normally I would have thought that in the case of a huge occasion like this, Wembley, Cup final, all that kind of stuff, I would have started with a team with a little bit more experience that's not going to get, overwhelmed. But now with no crowd at Wembley, it won't affect somebody like Saka or a young player in the same way that it might have when you've got 100,000 people in that kind of pressure. So in some ways that might be in our favour.
I've just got to. One of the things that I've just got in them, I can't get out of my mind. I've just got a feeling he's going to start Nketiah over Lacazette at the weekend as well. I just think, and look at the way Nketiah works for him and runs around. It reminds me of 2017 when he selected. Well, it wasn't him, but when Wenger selected Welbeck over Giroud, and Welbeck just never stopped running against the Chelsea back three, and he tired them out. He absolutely tired them out. And Lacazette, I'm just got this nagging doubt of his form and his confidence. And I just wonder, I don't know what you think, whether Nketiah might get the nod, because he has played more up front under Arteta than Lacazette has.
I think you've seen since the Liverpool game, which we've done all right, Lacazette's played a different role. He's come a lot deeper, isn't he, I think? So I think Arteta's been working with that. It worked. Really?
That's the role he's playing. It's just disrupting.
Yeah, it worked against City. I think you'll see Lacazette start. I think Arteta knows he can't really mess about with his team. I know what you mean. I do understand he could do it, but I thought Eddie was poor against Villa. He come on against Watford. He had a couple of chances. I know he tried setting Aubameyang up. He didn't look that great. So I think Lacazette will probably start ahead of him. And I'm looking forward to Pepe's performance on Saturday. I think he's been really good lately. I think he's got a lot of unfair stick from other fans because how much he costs and stuff. But if you base it on his first season, his goals and assists have been quite good return for me, I think, in his first season. And if you go through his actual start, he hasn't started as many games as you think either. No. I think he started 25 league games. Yeah. Not a lot, really, in 38. So I think Pepe's could be the one to shine on Saturday.
I think he could be the key man. I agree. The key man.
If we get the Pepe that scored those two last minute winners that kind of got us a little bit further than the Europa League, those free kicks. If we get that guy who's focused and on and and more importantly than anything, giving him the kind of support when he goes on his little runs. You know, you need to have those guys that are close by that can help make a decision for him, because it seems sometimes like he doesn't make that decision. He's half a second behind making the right decision, and then it fades out or fuzzles out.
I mean, Bellerin and Pepe hadn't quite got the chemistry and the overlapping going yet. But another thing that's encouraging, I think, for Pepe is Alonso is not the player he was 2 or 3 years ago at left wing back. You know, I think Pepe's got the beating of Alonso, you know, when we're going forward and Alonso's, you know, being on the back foot. I think he's got the beating of Alonso all day. And
I think Aubameyang's got the same other end with Reece James.
Yeah, well. I just like to see Pepe not always cut in. Maybe I'd like to see Pepe and Aubameyang switch flanks a bit, or Pepe just go on the outside and try and beat his fullback and use his right occasionally, because he has got one. I know his left's stronger, and I know the recent assist of booming the left cutting in. But Chelsea are a better side; they'll be wise to that. So I'd like to see a bit more variety. But I think Pepe's a key player.
My concern is, which is worrying me about Saturday, is that right side with Pulisic, Mount slipping in out there as well, against Holding and Bellerin. That worries me. The pace they've got.
You'd be Holding, right? You wouldn't consider anyone else. And be Holding Luis and Tierney in those back three. And
I think that's what he'd do. And the Holding does worry me. I know people want to see him do really well. He had that fantastic cup final a couple of years ago. But he does. His pace worries me. He's very slow on the ball, and he gets flat-footed a bit. And in the air...
He's good though, Charlie. I mean, he seems to be the guy clearing the crosses and making those last-minute tackles like more times than most. You know, especially when Luis is switched off, which he was this game. Holding is kind of there to you know. I think, I
might be a bit critical, but he's a worry of mine. I think.
Well, we know he's not going to play Socrates, so Holding's definitely
playing. Right.
Yeah.
Socrates.
And David Luiz is going to be up for this.
You know, you wouldn't think, you wouldn't put Kolasinac in at the centre.
I hope not. I really hope not.
No, I mean, the only reason Kolasinac's been playing there is because Arteta is desperate to have a left footer on the left. So it's, you know, Luiz was playing there in a 2, but if it's a 3, he wants a left footer. So that's why it's been Kolasinac or Tierney. You know, it wouldn't be anyone else.
I think we're going to have to ride
it wouldn't be Barry, obviously, if he wasn't injured, but he wants to left footer.
We're going to have to ride our luck a bit on Saturday, naturally, I think. Like we did against Man City, but be very organised, disciplined, play them on the counter. I prefer playing teams on the counter. It suits us better. Look at the Villa game when they sat back in the first half. We were a bit void of no idea. We didn't know what to do. So Liverpool, Man City, both times we played on the counter. We was solid. So we've got to ride our luck. But who knows? It's a cup final. Anything can happen.
I think you know, the one good thing is that the 2 times that we played them, Arteta seemed to have Lampard's number, because Lampard's had to adjust each time. You know, like he had to adjust. I think he brought Jorginho on at half time in the first game at the Bridge. It was a draw, right?
No, that was the second game at the Bridge.
It was the second. Well, there was one where he brought Jorginho on at the half time.
That was the first one.
And he should have been sent off. He should have been sent off.
But you know, so he adjusted on that, and then I think in the return game he matched our formation, and he hadn't been playing that, and he's been playing it since basically. So
but then he has adjusted because Man United have beaten him 3 times before the semi-final. So I mean, I've got a lot of time for Frank Lampard. I had a lot of time for him as a player, and I've got a lot of time for him as a pundit, and I've got a lot of time for him as a coach. He talks well, he understands the game, and I think the players are playing for him. But I think we've got that as well. So we've definitely.
It's interesting, isn't it? Arteta's last game for Arsenal was as a captain lifting the FA Cup. Lampard's last game for Chelsea was lifting the FA Cup.
Really?
And they've both got an opportunity now for their first trophies, both managers, for their first trophies and their first seasons properly at their clubs they love. It's quite a nice fairy tale. And how nice would it be Arteta in his first season, not even a full season, to get a trophy under his belt?
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
How you think Klopp, even all them years, had 4 or 5 years, we haven't won a trophy. You're playing really well. I know he's got enough now, but it does stick with managers, didn't they? And we've got a fantastic opportunity Saturday to get that hoodoo over us.
Yeah. So is there any surprises in the formation then? We think both teams are going to play 3-4-3. We don't think anyone's going to be surprised by that. We don't think Arteta will change just because they're playing 3-4-3 and throw them. I mean, we're definitely convinced the teams are going to match up then, are we?
I think Chelsea... What we're about, I don't know who's going to start for them, because I think Mount's been played enough to warrant a starting spot, but so's Willian. But Pulisic is obviously their star player. So, I reckon they might go for it at the back.
They played 4-3-3 against Wolves on the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Against Man United in the semi, they played 3 at the back, and that's been there. As I say, I asked the Chelsea pundit I speak to, and he says he's convinced they'll go 3-3. But it's like with Arsenal. Sometimes we can't even decide whether Arteta's playing 4-3-3 or 3-3 because he adjusts during the game, and it's different when we're going forward than when we haven't got the ball. And I think they're very pragmatic coaches, as Paul referred to earlier. I think Lampard's the same. But their big decision is going to be in the centre of midfield. You know, if they lose Kante, I mean, I like Kovacic, but he's one of these players who can be completely hit. He can have a brilliant game, or he can the game can pass him by.
Yeah.
And so I think the way that Xhaka and Ceballos are playing, the understanding they've got, they're solid. We know they're going to play well together. Chelsea, they've got a decision to make as to who's going to play if Kante's fit. So
I think Jorginho will get dropped if they're out of the 3.
Yeah, my Chelsea colleague said the same. He thinks if all are fit, it'll be Kante and Kovacic. Sorry. Yeah. It's going
to be nervy. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
it's I've got a feeling we might see extra time as well.
It's hard not to look at like what you said last season, Charlie. Where it was like, if last season was like the silver, like we were given the silver key, get out of jail card, like possible Champions League through winning a European Cup. Now we're like the bronze get out of jail card,
just get into
Europa League and an FA Cup. It's like and it's really last chance saloon because like. It has so many knock-on effects that Arsenal really it's more than anything. This is a cup that was worth way more than it seems to.
But then we also have this situation that we've seen Chelsea, Liverpool, and Leicester have incredible seasons when they weren't in Europe. So who knows? I do.
They had incredible players and big pockets.
Yeah. I think we're going to have to wrap it up, guys. We're trying to keep to our punchy half hour. So let's go for a prediction for the score at the weekend. Paul, you first.
My heart says 2-1 to the Arsenal.
And your head?
My head says we could maybe end up going extra time and penalties. And then it's anybody's guess. And that's going to be horrible because I think I'll be watching it from under my sofa.
We've got good penalty takers these days, to be fair.
Yeah. Until you need them.
I'm going to go for a 2-0 to the Arsenal. I am, and with Pepe and Aubameyang.
Repeat at the semi-final. Well, I think I'm going to go a repeat of 2017, and I'll agree with Paul. I think it's going to be 2-1 to the Arsenal. I think we'll score first. They'll equalise, and we'll score the winner. I'll make a prediction. It won't be Aaron Ramsey.
Oh, I was going to say, I think Ramsey might win it for us.
I've done a little thing yesterday on Twitter. This little game you could play, and I pulled out a tap in the last minute from Eddie Nketiah for the winner in the FA Cup. So I'll take that.
Yeah. I'll tell you another thing I saw. I know we are going to wrap up, but I saw something on Twitter. Joe Willock's played more times for Arsenal in all competitions than any other player this season.
Don't surprise me at all.
Not starting, but he's played more games.
I think he does a good job when he comes off the bench because he gets given a role. He gets told what to do. He listens to what to do, and he will run and run and run and run. He plays up front. He plays out wide. For me, Willock, I think he's another one off the bench. Last 15, 20 minutes, bit of energy. Yeah. No problem at all. I really am.
And Nelson. You'd throw Nelson into that bracket as well, wouldn't you? If Pepe's tired, 10, 15 minutes to go. Yeah. All right, chaps. Thank you very much.
Hopefully we're all happy next week.
Enjoy on Saturday, and I'll speak to you both soon. Thank you.
Thanks. Adios.